Hey, Wellness Warriors, welcome to the Burnout Resolution Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mylaine Riobé, and today we're going to explore the hidden battle going on in your body that leads to burnout, why burnout is not in your head, and why it's all about your metabolism. Have you ever felt like your body just quits on you or just stops responding or cooperating? You're doing all the things, right? You're eating well, you're getting enough sleep, you're exercising, you're doing your mindfulness routines, and yet you're just exhausted all the time. Then when you go to your physician and they do your routine physicals and they get blood work and any other tests to work up why you're so tired, they all come back normal. And you're told that everything is fine. And this happens year after year. Or you might get referred to a specialist to do a deeper dive. And even that comes back normal. Or non-specific. Non-specific means there are a few things that are off, but there's nothing to tell you why you're exhausted. I see this all the time. For example, someone has been to the doctor and specialists, and all they can find is a low white blood cell count, for example. But that really doesn't have anything to directly do with fatigue. We just shove it to the side and say it's a non-specific finding and there's nothing wrong. So we end up thinking that this is all in our head, or I just need a new job maybe, or I need a vacation, or maybe I'm just getting older. I hear that all the time from my clients, and it's shocking because a good number of them are still in their 20s. And I do have quite a few that come in and say, is it in my head? Is it that I'm just getting older? Am I supposed to expect to feel this way at the age of 28? And I tell them, no, absolutely not. It is not in your head. It has nothing to do with your age at all. What's really happening is what I call the silent battle going on in your body. Or in my book, Faith, I called it the gray zone. It's where you know something isn't right, but you can't find the answers. This battle going on in your body is between supply and demand, what your body can give versus what life keeps taking. Today, we're going to dive deep into this battle to show you why burnout happens, why you can never find the answers, and why even changing jobs or going on sabbatical doesn't seem to help. We'll show you how burnout sneaks up on you. It's not something that happens suddenly just because you're in a toxic work environment. There's this silent battle raging in your body even before you start working. And we'll show you how the symptoms of burnout are actually the result of your body trying to protect you. Your body is brilliant at adaptation. It's a miraculous machine. It is self-aware. It understands a lot. But it has one very specific function, and that is to keep you alive at the end of the day. So if it perceives that something is off, it goes into that survival mode. Stress triggers that survival instinct in your body. Very often when that instinct is first triggered, we don't really have any symptoms. We're fine. We feel pretty good. We're moving on with our lives. We can pretty much tackle anything we want to do. We can socialize. We don't feel like we have any limitations. But your body, in the meanwhile, is starting a very silent, raging battle between who gets what it needs and who doesn't get what it needs in terms of the tissues and organs in your body. This is adaptation to stress. Stress was never designed to be chronic. Stress was designed to be acute and fleeting. And chronic stress is one of the main side effects of modern living. Now, of course, our ancestors, thousands and thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, they had stressors, they had predators, they had famine and starvation. It's not like they had it great, but that stress was different. Fast forward to today, the stress that we're dealing with is not a predator, and in most cases, it's not necessarily starvation. It's artificial light, it's work, it's not getting enough sleep, it's pesticides in our food, toxins in our household products, stress about the future, stress about careers, stress about relationships. Those are ongoing, never-ending types of stressors for most people. When your body senses that metabolism is getting depleted, metabolism is essentially how your body makes and uses energy to power its body functions. Every single cell in your body has to take the food that you've eaten, mix it with oxygen to make usable energy in the form of what we call ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Then it takes that ATP, that currency, and it powers its body functions with it. So there's no cell in your body that just gets energy delivered to it. No matter what cell it is, your eyes for you to see, your liver for you to detox, your gut cells for digestion and absorption, your brain cells for executive function and memory, they all have to do this. They have to convert your food and oxygen into usable energy into the ATP, which then powers their function. When your body senses that your metabolism is getting depleted for any reason, whether it's you're not quite getting enough oxygen because you're not breathing deeply enough, whether it's that you're not eating enough, or perhaps you're not absorbing properly and you're not getting the food into the body to meet your metabolic demands. Whenever it senses that things are getting depleted, or when you go into a pattern that I call a deficient dynamic metabolic type, your body immediately adapts and it starts to dig into its reserves to keep powering your functions. Now, what are these reserves? The tissues and the organs that your body does not consider to be very important for survival. The heart cell sits at the top of the food chain in your body because if your heart doesn't beat, you're done. It has a very high priority to your body. Your body will do whatever it takes to make sure that all of your heart cells have nutrition, have oxygen, so that they can make their usable energy to power their functions, which is to keep your heart beating. Now, on the opposite end of that food chain is something like a hair follicle, right? That has no actual function for survival. So it's more or less at the very bottom of the food chain. So when your body senses that its metabolism is dropping, it doesn't have enough energy to perform all its functions, it will simply divert attention away from the less important tissues using its blood vessels. It will close down some blood vessels that might be going to your hair follicles. What happens there is not enough hair follicles will get enough food and oxygen to convert into usable fuel, and you'll start seeing that your hair is getting dry and thinning, for example, falling out easily, things like that. Now, it's not going to completely shut off all blood flow to your scalp, but it's going to close down its blood vessels to a point where it's going to save itself the energy by being able to divert what it would have sent to the hair follicles somewhere else. Where else? Those heart cells. And then those lung cells, because you can only hold your breath for so long, right? So the heart and the lungs, what's in your chest, is the most important for your survival to your body. And then what's on the outside of you, your skin, your hair. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the outside is actually the musculoskeletal system as well. So anything from the bones out in traditional Chinese medicine is considered the exterior of the body. In Western medicine, we consider the surface of the skin to be the exterior. But when we look at how your body actually functions, the first thing it does to adapt is to not feed the musculoskeletal system, the skin cells, the hair follicles, as much as it would the heart and the lungs. It gets to save the calories from not having sent as much to the musculoskeletal system, the skin, and the hair follicles, so it can send what it does have to the more important tissues. Heart and lungs are at the very top, and then the center of your brain that controls your heart and lungs are at the very top. And then your circulatory system, which carries the food to the heart and lungs, is at the top. This is why blood work doesn't always tell us the truth. Because when we look at blood work, we're looking at a very protected environment. Your body knows better than to not have in its circulatory system what your heart and lungs need to function. You may be vitamin C depleted, for example, but it won't show up in your blood work because your body will make sure that it diverts whatever available vitamin C that it does have away from the skin, the hair follicles, and the musculoskeletal system and send it instead to the heart and lungs. So when you check your blood work in that protected environment with a regular blood draw, your vitamin C will look pretty good because it is in that environment. So again, this is the gray zone. This is where There's this silent battle raging. Your hair follicles are screaming for help. Your skin cells are screaming for help. Your musculoskeletal system is screaming for help, right? How do they scream for help? They obviously can't talk. It's the hair thinning, the hair falling out, the hair breaking, the dry skin, the rashes, the acne, the itching. In the musculoskeletal system, it's the loss of muscle mass, the thinning of bones, the aching of joints and muscles. When your muscles don't have enough nourishment, they don't contract and relax properly. So you get muscle stiffness, you have increased risk of injuring yourself and not recovering as quickly. People that bruise easily, people that don't heal easily. These are all signs that your body is diverting energy, using its reserves to maintain proper body function of the heart and the lungs. Now, what about all the other organs? When we look at your abdominal and pelvic organs, your liver, gastrointestinal system, pancreas, gallbladder, spleen, kidneys, ovaries or testes, uterus, they're kind of in the middle. They're not as important as a heart and a lung cell. They're not as unimportant as the musculoskeletal system, the skin and hair follicles. They're kind of in the middle. So your immune system's in the middle as well. It's not as important as heart and lungs. If your body has exhausted all the resources and tapped into all the reserves by diverting from the exterior of the body, then it starts to tap into the abdominal and pelvic organs. Now it's not able to just divert anymore. We're not sending as much to the hair follicles, so we can send it to the heart and lungs. Now it starts to actually break down the tissues to extract what it needs from them. If the deficiency goes on longer and longer, and it's not just a simple matter of diverting traffic and sending the nutrients somewhere else, it will literally start to break the tissues down and extract the nutrients out of them to send them to the heart and lungs. This is where we start to lose the muscle mass, this is where we start to lose the bone density. We might get diagnosed with osteopenia, osteoporosis in that case. It's not just a matter of those tissues not getting fed as much. Now they're literally being broken down. I call that going to the pawn shop. You go to the pawn shop when you want to hawk your jewelry or something. This is where it gets dangerous. It's not just a matter of a little hair thinning and some rashes and acne. Now you're exhausted. Now you might be gaining weight. You might have uncontrollable inflammation, brain fog, that tiny piece of your brain that runs the heart and lungs, executive function, memory. None of that matters to your body if it's depleted enough. It doesn't have any extra to send to those tissues. So it just has them getting by on a percentage of what they need. This is the battle that goes on, sometimes for decades, that never shows up in blood work or colonoscopies, endoscopies, x-rays, CAT scans. You will not see this happening in any regular medical testing. All this happens so that you don't just collapse and essentially die. This is your body literally protecting you tenaciously because it feels that you are threatened. The same thing happens if your metabolism is blocked, an excess dynamic metabolic type. This is where you have extra stuff. So it's not that you have extra metabolism, it's not that your body is making additional energy, it's that there's extra stuff in the way. So this is usually inflammation. This is usually toxins. It can be heavy metals, plastics, phthalates, or hormone mimickers. They're not real hormones. They just gunk up your body's ability to actually use hormones. This obstructs, it blocks your metabolism. We call that an excess dynamic metabolic type. People with an excess dynamic metabolic type are still going to be tired. They're still going to have the brain fog. They're going to have all the same symptoms, but the cause will be different. And how do you know they're in excess as opposed to a deficient dynamic metabolic type? The deficient dynamic metabolic type will say, yes, I'm tired pretty much all the time. The more I do, the more tired I get. They may have to scale back on how much exercise they do and the activities that they participate in because they find the more active they are, the worse they feel. They may want to take naps. They may want to sleep way more than what they think is normal. That's how we know that they are deficient. The excess dynamic metabolic type will say, I feel bad if I don't move around a lot. I have to keep moving. I have to exercise. If I miss a day at the gym, I feel terrible. I have to keep getting up and moving around. to feel good. Otherwise, I fall asleep. I can't nap. I feel worse when I wake up after a nap. The reason this happens is they feel forced to keep moving their metabolism around so that they can force the metabolism to move through the blockages. And that helps them to feel better. The problem is because of the inflammation, the toxins will just settle down as soon as they sit and not move around so much anymore. They will keep having to do this to feel better. Your body has to compensate in a similar way because your body has to work harder to push through those obstructions to get them out of the way. That takes up a lot more energy. And your body compensates by finding alternate routes. It has to go around the blockages. This blood vessel is a bit obstructed because of inflammation and toxins. It will go through another blood vessel. It will find another blood vessel. It will make another blood vessel so that it can go around the problem. That all requires additional energy. That all requires adaptation. So your body is kind of making two wrongs equal a right because it can't fix the original problem. Your body is very self-healing, but to a point. If it can't get the nutrients because maybe you're not absorbing, maybe you have a gut issue, or maybe you're not eating enough, it has to make those two wrongs equal a right. It has to steal from a bunch of tissues that you would prefer to be functioning properly. It's doing it on the inside. It's doing it in a way that's hidden to you so it can get it to where it feels is more important. And it's doing all of that to assure your survival. When there are blockages, it's doing the same thing to assure your survival to the point where it will try to increase the capillaries, make more capillaries, trying to make sure your heart gets enough blood. If it doesn't, that's a heart attack. Your body is incessantly adapting to stressors. And of course, inflammation and toxins are stressors. So is depletion. Depletion is a stress to your body. Stress is essentially anything that takes your body out of balance to the point where it can't get it back into balance by itself. We call that homeostasis. Your body has all of these functions to keep everything back to normal. If you go outside and it's super cold, you're going to shiver so that your body's temperature doesn't get too low. Same thing if the temperature is too high outside. You'll start to sweat so that your body can bring the temperature back down. This is just one example of how your body maintains what we call homeostasis or balance. But if the body is too out of balance, it will make two wrongs equal a right. But that will come with symptoms. So the exchange is you get to live another day, but you don't feel great. And this can go on for decades potentially. It's kind of like outspending your income. At first, if you have some savings, you can just keep moving savings into checking to compensate. So all the bills will be paid, everything will be fine. But you're going down the slippery slope where if you don't either reduce your expenses or make more money, you're going to run out of savings. When you run out of savings and your checking account goes dry, the symptoms get worse when this is the battle that's going on inside your body and continues. Then you'll get a disease. Then maybe your thyroid will quit functioning altogether and you'll have hypothyroidism. Or you can get infections in the gastrointestinal system when your immune system kind of quits on you. Or you'll get frequent infections. People come to me all the time and say, I can't stop catching colds. I can't stop catching every virus that's out there. And I don't even recover once I'm sick. These are the same slippery slopes that can take you to a path of diabetes, heart disease, liver dysfunction. We're seeing a lot of fatty liver now. The liver may not have the resources to handle all the toxins and they just spill into the body and cause damage. Or if it's just too many toxins, right? If your liver has adequate resources and there are too many toxins, those toxins will get trapped in your liver. So all of this is contributing to fatty liver that we're seeing. There's a lot of adult onset ADHD for the same reason, your brain, right? So either there are toxins in the brain, heavy metals get trapped in the brain. And also the brain is easily susceptible to not having enough resources. And so this can manifest as ADHD. This can manifest as mental health disorders, depression, anxiety, or more. So this is because your body is compensating, adapting for your immediate survival. Your body prefers that you get an infection, for example, over having a heart attack because your body doesn't understand that you might get rushed to the ER, have surgery, and be okay after the heart attack. It just knows a heart attack is immediate death, so it will do whatever is necessary to protect your heart at the expense of just about any other tissue in your body. This is what stress does when stress is too chronic. Now, the other thing I talk about a lot is that we don't often perceive that we are under stress. We start to normalize it. When it becomes too chronic, then we think this is just the way it is, and we're not aware of it to consciously break the cycle. It allows this battle to rage on and on and on in your body. When your body goes to the pawn shop and it's literally breaking down its own tissues, that's essentially cannibalization. So it cannibalizes itself. It will sacrifice tissues that it doesn't think are important, extract the resources from them to take to the tissues it does think are important, heart, lungs. And none of this shows up on your test. Standard blood work that you get would never show this until you do have a disease. But that can take decades to show up. Meanwhile, you're in burnout that entire time with no end in sight. Let me share a story that captures this, which is an all too familiar story. They think they're the only ones that are experiencing this when it couldn't be further from the truth. I'll call this client Denise to protect her identity. Denise came in, and when we did her burnout assessment, she had a temperature neutral, deficient dynamic metabolic type. She didn't feel hot or cold compared to other people. She didn't have any temperature intolerances, and she had a deficient metabolism. She came in for fatigue and a series of other symptoms as well that were consistent with burnout. She was in her late 20s, just starting her career. She was driven and exhausted. Even before she started working, she felt inflamed, she felt a little toxic, and so she decided to do intermittent fasting because she didn't feel hungry in the mornings anyway. She thought it would be a good strategy to get rid of the inflammation and the toxicity that she felt. But with the deficient dynamic metabolic type, fasting actually makes you more depleted. And so it actually felt worse and worse. She thought it was just her new job, so she kept doing it. And also, she was thinking of having children in the near future. Fertility was on her mind. One of her concerns and what pushed her to come in was she was concerned that given how exhausted she was, would she be able to have the energy to be a mom? Her blood work looked great. She really had nothing wrong. She just didn't feel great. She was exhausted all the time, achy, wasn't really able to exercise much, and felt like she needed more sleep than she could get because her career was keeping her up longer hours than she had anticipated. When I asked Denise more about her symptoms, she revealed that she had lifelong constipation as far back as she could remember and quite a bit of bloating. SIBO was the first thing I thought of as to why she was so depleted. And so we did a SIBO breath test, and it did come back positive for methane-dominant SIBO. SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, the condition that causes malabsorption. Whether the constipation came before the SIBO or was a result of the SIBO is unclear. But somewhere along the way, she got a gut infection, perhaps from the stress of school, who knows. But this infection was robbing her of nutrients. So that led to more testing. We did a deep dive into her immune cells to look for vitamins and minerals she might be missing. And she was missing 13 different vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and antioxidants to explain her exhaustion. It wasn't that there was something wrong with her metabolism. It was adapting as much as it could, but it was decompensating because it simply couldn't do what her lifestyle was demanding. She had to go to work. She had to deprive herself of sleep to get her work done. And then, of course, there was all the years of going to school and studying and the stress involved with that. Denise's body had done all it could to maintain her metabolism. The result was that she was just exhausted because that was the best her body could do to keep her alive. She was experiencing some acne and other things, but the exhaustion was so dominant that she wasn't really thinking about those other things as much. But she had all of it. She had the brain fog, aches and the pains. So we applied her dynamic metabolic type to 4 pillars of wellness. So eat. The first thing we recommended was that she stop fasting and actually eat more. Of course, we had to treat her infection. That was really critical, and support her digestion and absorption so she could get that nutrition absorbed into her body while treating the infection. So I prescribed the supplements she was deficient in and adjusted her nutrition so that she would be getting those nutrients into her body so that her body would have access to them and could stop cannibalizing itself or going to the pawn shop. The other thing we recommended was warm, well-cooked foods. That's just easier to digest and absorb. So because she was temperature neutral, we didn't have to prescribe a diet to shift her body temperature so much as we needed to prescribe her a diet that was highly absorbable. So well-cooked foods that are warm are just easier for your body to handle when the metabolism is weakened. We recommended that she eat more protein. The body was cannibalizing itself. We had to give her enough protein so it could build it back up. Sleep. We asked to get 9 hours of sleep, which was a tall order because she was getting about 7 and she was trying to compensate on the weekends. We had to do time management assessments, sneak in some naps during the day so that she ended up having a full 9 hours of sleep a night. As far as movement, we recommended restorative activities, yoga, tai chi, qigong, a little bit of Pilates, stretching, or anything that was essentially low impact and short, 30 minutes in and out, just a few days a week. Recommended breath work. And then for detoxification, that was a hard no, like no detoxes, no cleanses, because she was too depleted. Within weeks, she was feeling much, much better. And once we were able to catch up with her metabolism, she didn't need as much sleep. We were able to adjust her sleep time and her naps, and she was able to do more exercises as well. She felt more clear, the brain fog was gone, she was waking up energized and ready to go. She was able to enjoy the career she had worked so hard to get into. And the best part is she felt prepared to be a mom. For the first time in years, her body could stop cannibalizing itself, going to the pawn shop, and maladapting to make two wrongs equal a right. And so the internal battle that had been raging in her for years was able to come to a peaceful solution. That's where so many people get lost, because had we not done those specialized tests, she would never have known. Conventional medicine looks for diseases, not maladaptation, not compensation, which is where your body usually is before the disease happens. And in fact, sometimes for decades before the disease happens, it's adapting and then finally maladapting. None of that shows up in mainstream medical testing. Instead, you get told that you're stressed and that you're getting older and that this is all normal and you should just expect this. But you're not crazy. Your body is just compensating, adapting, doing the best it can, and successfully keeping you alive. It's the metabolic equivalent of maxing out all your credit cards just to pay your mortgage or your rent. The shocking truth is this is not an aging issue. You see people in their 20s having the experiences that people used to have in their 50s and 60s. Their labs look fine at their annuals, but inside, their mitochondria are depleted, hormones are flatlined, their gut's inflamed, their muscles and joints are inflamed, and their cells are depleted. They've grown up in permanent fight or flight. So many chemicals and toxins in our atmosphere, so much stress. And again, they do their best, they compensate the best that they can, but a lot of this is subconscious. A lot of this is not felt by you. I've had other clients not be so lucky. I just saw a 20, I think another 28-year-old this week. She had numerous hospitalizations, numerous surgeries, diagnosed with a connective tissue disorder, autoimmune conditions, all from the same issue. When we traced her history, she told me she had heartburn since the age of 8 and had been fully evaluated with no findings whatsoever. Now, she just came in, so her SIBO test is not yet back, but I'm willing to bet the farm that she has SIBO. And she's probably had it since the age of 8. And it's probably at least partly to blame for her multiple surgeries, medical conditions, and hospitalizations. And what's really so sad is how common this has become. And people suffer in silence if they don't know where they can go and seek help. This is why I say burnout is not a work-related issue. Now, can your job cause your burnout to be worse? Absolutely. No one should work in a toxic work environment. But even people that haven't even started working yet are in burnout at times. People that have pretty cushy, easy, stress-free jobs still have burnout because it's a subconscious phenomenon that triggers this battle in the body. Once you realize that, you know, like, oh, I get to make this conscious. I get to make conscious choices about how my body is perceiving stress because it's your body's perception of stress that begins that whole chain reaction. Once you realize that, you get to ask different questions and realize there are distinct patterns that form when your body is going down the slippery slope. Your body is literally telling you what is wrong and how to fix it. It's just not capable of fixing itself. And this is where the symptoms even come from. So there are 6 dynamic metabolic types that explain why the body is stuck in this pattern and how to fix it. This is what I use with my clients. It's based in traditional Chinese medicine theory, a 4,000-year-old medical practice. When this process happens later in life, in the late 30s and into the 40s, especially in women, we call it perimenopause. Perimenopause is simply burnout in your 30s and 40s instead of in your 20s. It's the same thing. It's all stress driven. It's how your body compensates for stress and how it adapts for stress. In traditional Chinese medicine, they teach us this the decade before the menopause transition dictates how rocky that menopause transition is going to be. When your body is busy adapting, constantly compensating to the point where it's diverting its resources from less important organs for immediate survival tactics, your ovaries aren't going to get enough, your uterus isn't going to get enough, and you're going to have hormonal imbalances and issues. The adrenal system gets depleted because they are the ones that make the stress hormones to begin with. So they can get worn out as well. That will never show up in blood work, but it's a huge cause of burnout. All of the drama online with people talking about the perimenopause symptoms they're having, dry eye, brain fog, ADHD, weight gain, palpitations, anxiety, it's all burnout. How stress is causing this slippery slope, this silent battle that's raging in the body. So when someone does enter their late 40s and menopause is coming, the body has been using up resources, going to the pawn shop, cannibalizing itself. Now the ovaries are supposed to essentially be able to retire. We see the estrogen and progesterone starting to decline and fluctuate. Because there's no reserve, all hell breaks loose. Instead of a smooth transition through menopause, this battle that's been raging in the body just gets that much worse. On top of all the brain fog and all the other things, then we get the hot flashes and the night sweat, and we can't sleep. All of the things that come from not sleeping because we're busy having hot flashes and night sweats all night. When menopause is starting to happen, if your body has been really heavily decompensating, doing 2, 3, 4 wrongs to equal a right, this is why we start to see an increased rate of heart attacks during the menopause transition, because the body's gone to the pawn shop, it has run through every possible system it can run through to maintain your survival, and now menopause comes along and adds yet more stress. Someone could have a heart attack or develop other diseases like diabetes and cancer. We see increased risks of diseases or increased incidences of diseases during this transition. In fact, the risk of heart attacks for women equals that of men during menopause. Whereas when our ovaries are better functioning and the body has not been so decompensated, our risk of heart attack is much lower, because that's the last thing your body would want to happen to you, because it thinks you're going to immediately die, which still in many cases happens. Even though we have blockbuster drugs and surgical procedures and the best heart attack treatments in the world here in the United States, it's still the #1 cause of death. It's not just about hormones when you're going through perimenopause. It's about the silent battle raging in your body. Knowing your dynamic metabolic type during this important time of life helps you to stop the battle, helps bring about the peaceful resolution, so that you don't get sick as you go through menopause transitions and you just feel better. You have the energy that you should have. You're sleeping well. You don't have to worry about weight gain, aches and pains, and all the things that we hear so much about online. So many women say, I was fine till I hit my 40s. We're seeing younger and younger women experiencing what we would identify as perimenopause if they were also having hot flashes and night sweats. So the only thing that differentiates burnout from perimenopause or menopause symptoms are the hot flashes and the night sweats. The rest of the story is pretty much the same because it's the same battle. And this is the opportunity, the wake-up call. If we don't give the body what it needs, the support that it needs, it does get sick at the end of the day. Stress locks your system in fight or flight and doesn't allow it to get out unless you consciously break the pattern. In order to consciously break the pattern, you have to breathe properly. That's number one. You have to break that cycle so that you're doing your breath work 3 times a day, just for 3 minutes, like we always talk about with heart math. Breaking the pattern means providing the body with what it's been missing if you're a deficient dynamic metabolic type, or getting out of the body what's been obstructing its metabolism, the inflammation or the toxins or the heavy metals, whatever they might be. Toxic hormones are another thing we often see. Knowing if you're a deficient or an excess dynamic metabolic type helps you know what to target and how to bring peace back into the body. When the body is that deep into decompensation, it can't end that by itself. The reason you even have symptoms at all is because the body was not able to heal itself. It just keeps catching holes, slapping band-aids on things, and just trying to keep itself going. Raising cortisol, trying to push through, slowing down the thyroid to conserve energy, storing fat for emergency reserves. All of this is your body doing the right thing to keep you going because it can't heal something. There's something it's not able to heal that it needs you to pay attention to, so to speak. But again, we won't see this with regular testing. And so functional and integrative testing helps us to see what's going on silently in the body that your routine tests will not reveal. Dynamic metabolic typing will also help. I use dynamic metabolic typing to apply to the 4 pillars of wellness, because very often, even without testing, unless I strongly suspect someone has an infection or has some other underlying medical issues that we need to tend to, the 4 pillars of wellness are sufficient to get them out of burnout and to stop the raging battle going on in their bodies. Just knowing how to eat for your dynamic metabolic type, how to sleep for it, how to move, and whether or not you need a cleanse or a detox or you should avoid one is critically important, because that allows your body to go back into balance and to stop having to go to the pawn shop and cannibalizing itself and trying to find its way around to avoid death, essentially. And this may sound dramatic, right? Oh, just trying to avoid death, but this is literally what your body is doing. It is conserving all it can to get to the heart and lungs at the expense of any other tissue it has to throw under the bus to do that. Remember Denise that we talked about earlier? Once we were able to clear that infection and get her the right nutrients to rebalance her dynamic metabolic type, we took her from a deficient dynamic metabolic type to, so her energy responded to that, because that's what metabolism does. It gives you more energy, usable energy, so that your body can power itself. Then you'll feel great, right? If your body can grow hair, if your skin is glowing, you don't have rashes and acne, and you don't feel like you're aging as quickly. The aches and pains go away. Simply because now your body doesn't have to tap into those reserves anymore. It can now put energy back into all the places it had to take away from. And that's the beauty of dynamic metabolic typing and applying it to the 4 pillars of wellness. It helps you very quickly identify the causes of burnout and the solutions that work best for you. Burnout isn't a failure, it's a wake-up call. It's your body telling you it has been doing everything it can to keep you alive by protecting you when life has demanded too much of you. If your labs say you're normal, but you don't feel good, that's your body telling you it's tapping into those reserves and it's having to adapt to keep you safe. Don't ignore that language of your body. Your body's your partner, and it's not here to fight against you. It's here to do everything for you. If you're not sure if you're in burnout and you want to know, I invite you to take our burnout assessment at awakenedwellnessnow.com. If you know you're in burnout and you're ready to find solutions, I invite you to join our 7-day Metabolic Reset Challenge. You can also find that on our website. Start ending that silent war within and bring peace to your body. Because healing doesn't start when your labs become abnormal. It starts when you begin to understand the language of your body. If you want to know about our corporate offers, please visit our website, awakenwellnessnow.com, for more information. I invite you to subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing you more content like this. And until next time, many, many blessings. Thank you.